Hey geeks, welcome to Rockin the Code World with dotNetDave. This is episode number 26. Today is June 5th. These months are going by so quick. I can't believe it's summer already. And it looks like today we're finally going to get summer. Crossing my fingers. You know, usually in San Diego, California, we call May gray, because by the coast here where I live, by the beach, it's gray most of the day, and then we call it June gloom because it's gloomy because of the ocean water and air temperature, and you know we have this every year. But anyway, I hope summer's here. I hope you're if you're in America, you're safely getting out and seeing you know, your friends and loved ones now if you have the vaccine, and maybe we're getting back. We're going to find our new normal in the next 6 months or so, but. Anyway, today's guest is Jim Wilcox. I've known Jim for a little bit after I've spoken in his state before, and so I'm excited to catch up with Jim and see what he's been up to since I don't even remember what year I was there. Actually, Jim will have to tell me. So there's where you can email me. There's my handles and all that kind of stuff. I hope you'll email me if you have any speakers or anybody you would like me to invite to be on the show as a guest. Please email me. I will ask anybody you ask of me, and I will try to get them, even if it's Bill Gates. Hey, can't hurt to try, right? But, you know, unfortunately, I still have to talk about this. India is still having a really bad time with COVID, and not only are they having just huge numbers every day, they have no vaccines anymore. So, you know, to my Indian friends, I feel real embarrassed that Americans have to be bribed with $1 million to take the freaking vaccine, and you guys don't have any and you're dying, including CSharpCorner members are dying, and so our CSharpCorner writers have died too. So this is really hitting home for you. And since, you know, I love India and I love the people there, it's really affecting me. So a month or so ago, I put out a challenge to everybody to go to this link. And when I announced this a while ago, I challenged everybody to donate at least as much as I did or more. And that's $100. As soon as the show was over, I donated to this link, and I donated $100. And I've gotten some other guests on my show to do it. And I even got the architect of C#, Mads Torgersen, to pony up $250. So everybody who's donated, I'm really happy you did. All the rest of you who haven't donated, who aren't in India, what are you waiting for? They really need your support, and it will help. Believe me, it will make you feel better helping your fellow human, even if they're, you know, 11 and a half time zones away. So please go to that link, and then if you do donate, please tweet it to the Rockin the Code World, and I'll post your tweet, retweet your tweet. Too many tweets today, and let's get India some help, because you know I can't wait to go back there and visit my friends and speak at CSharpCorner again. And but you know, nobody's going back there until this thing gets fixed. So let's help India fix it. Okay. So today I actually made a mistake, and I did a new release on the wrong month, but there you go. So I released version 3 basically of my new Spargene open source project. It's all the common code I've been writing for .NET ever since .NET 2.0, but this is all .NET 5. And even from the last release to this release, I've been seeing some benchmarking improvements. So I hope you go check it out. I think the last time I counted, all of my stuff has been downloaded over 30,000 times, and I hope you check it out. Yeah, I work hard on and trying to make your life a little bit easier, you know, using open source projects like mine. And look out for a new article in CSharpCorner next week about some of the new things that are in Spargene, and one old thing. Because that's basically how I'm going to document it, is by writing articles for CSharpCorner. So I hope you like that part. So I'm in the final stages of preparing for the first conference I'm actually hosting ever, called the Code Quality and Performance Virtual Conference, which CSharpCorner Live is putting on June 18th. I hope you'll be there. I have a lot of awesome speakers lined up. I'm really excited about this lineup. And if I get excited, it's going to be a great lineup. So I have a huge age difference in the speakers. My youngest speaker is 13 years old. I can't wait to hear from him. And then the oldest speaker, I think, is going to be me. And so the youngest speaker is going to start the conference, and the oldest speaker, me, is probably going to end the conference. And it's 8 hours or more packed of lots of things you need to know, how to make your applications have better code quality and better performance. I'm very excited about this conference. So please go to CSharpCorner Live, and register for the conference now so we can see how many people are coming. We still have some announcements, including giveaways, and also who we're going to raise money for this conference. So hopefully next week I'll have that. And next week I also plan to start putting out the actual schedule of timing and everything. So I've had this past week, I've been off and I've been corralling the speakers, and that's been a little bit frustrating, but I think I've got them all. And I'm really excited about this conference. And if it goes well, my plan at this point, I haven't talked to Mahesh yet, but I want to do one of these at least once a year. It's been a goal of mine for over 10 years to do a conference like this. And so it's finally coming true, and I'm really happy. Yes, it's all for free. Everything on CSharpCorner is for free pretty much. So I hope you join me on June 18th. It'll well be worth watching, taking some time off, or make sure you go back and watch the episodes later, okay? Because I know we all live in different time zones. And I have speakers from all over the world, so it's going to be great. Speaking of code quality, I released my latest coding standards book back in January, and it's all for .NET 5. So I hope you go pick up my book, Rock Your Code: Coding Standards for Microsoft.NET. And this is for .NET 5 and above, or just .NET, whatever they're calling this new framework now. So I hope you go check it out. From what I've heard back from people who have purchased it, they've liked it. And I think you'll like it too. And especially, we're going to be talking about this in the code quality conference, is that your team needs to have coding standards written down, documented in format, sitting next to them on their desk. And I'll be talking a little bit about that in my keynote. So because I believe, not only because, the reason I wrote the book is because there's not a concise place in the .NET world where the coding standards even are, and that's really where the book came from. So the first release is 2005, and so I hope you go pick it up. Thanks. I have a brand new article on CSharpCorner. I hope you go check it out, called Architecture: Processing Data with Microservices. I've decided to do a series of architecture articles on how I've architected things for companies, real things, not pretend, not hello world, real actual problems I've solved at companies in the past. And the first one is actually something I architected for my last position, which I just left last week. And so I hope you go check it out and see just how simple it is to really get a lot of improvement, but just by using microservices. So I hope you check that out, but watch out for more. And as of yesterday, I hit 1 million reads on CSharpCorner. Woohoo! That's a big milestone for me. I'm just so humbled and happy that 1 million people actually read my articles. And so for those million people that read my articles, I hope you got something out of it. I hope it helped in your career. That's why I do it. I certainly don't get paid for it. So I hope these are helping you out. And I'm now looking forward to my 2 million. And but I really want to give a shout out to Mahesh and everybody at CSharpCorner for allowing me to do this. And I really am appreciative that Mahesh basically allows me to write whatever I want. And and so it's been really nice that I have a platform that I can write whatever I'm passionate about that week. And, everybody in CSharpCorner land, at least 1 million people at least like it. So thanks a lot. And make sure you go to CSharpCorner to check out what I'm up to next. And like I said, my next article will be coming out next week about my SparkGene project. All right. So let's bring on Jim. Jim's a Microsoft MVP dev tech, just like myself, dev community evangelist, speaker, event organizer for the Granite State Hacker. And that's all I have to say. So welcome, Jim.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really impressed with the stuff you're doing with India too. I will definitely help boost that as well. So
thank you very much.
A lot of friends over there myself, and it's been painful seeing what's going on. So
I know it's been super painful, and I don't know what news you watch, but they don't really hardly even talk about India anymore in America. And I kind of wish they would, just to kind of keep it in our minds and not let America just think everything's okay, because it's not. This is a world pandemic. It's not an American pandemic or an Indian pandemic. It's a world pandemic, and we have to solve it together, or we're not going to. Mm-hmm. And I, for one, don't want to get any more COVID shots. I don't want to get a booster. And if we just all got the vaccine, there wouldn't be a problem. But like I said in the beginning, India doesn't even have that choice. They don't even have the luxury of that right now, and that's super, super sad. And so I hope, thanks. I hope things improve. It's going to take a while, but my thoughts and prayers are with you guys every day. That's for sure. So let's talk about something more fun. So what have you been up to lately? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the last time, I think we've chatted here and there, but of course the first time we met was Granite State Code Camp. Believe that was 2018 that you actually came out for it, and that was a blast. We really enjoyed having you. That was our inaugural year, and that was cool. For this incarnation of Code Camp in New Hampshire. So we're, for folks who don't know where we are geographically, we're just a little bit north of Boston, and Boston has a lot of great stuff going for it, including a really cool code camp that I like to speak at whenever I can. And I'm pretty sure you've been to that one as well, if I recall. Maybe
the Boston, not the Boston one.
Not the Boston. Okay. So we're not too terribly far north from them, and but I like to say, hey, we've got, beaches, mountains, lakes, all kinds of stuff. And we have Boston within an hour to our south. And, we also have our code camp and all that stuff. So like I say, we really had a great time having you out for it and all that.
I had a great time too, by the way. And I got to see some, one of my favorite parts was I got to go see some, childhood memories that I used to have, like going up, Mount Washington in the Cog Railroad,
Ooh, yeah.
I remember doing that at least once or twice, when I was a kid. I mean, before we moved to Arizona. And so I was like little, and I always thought that was like the coolest freaking thing,
Oh, yeah.
So I took it. Unfortunately, it was too close to winter, and so it only went halfway up. So I didn't get to go to the summit, but it was still fun, and it's so pretty up there. And then I got to have lunch at that big hotel, that Grand Hotel. I've never been in a Grand Hotel before, and
if that's the one you're
really fun.
Talking about, I think that one is the inspiration for The Shining, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think so. Yeah. But one thing I don't think I shared really is that I thought it was really interesting because I'm originally from back east, right? I'm used to crappy weather and rain and snow and all that kind of stuff. But while I was having lunch, it started just barely sprinkling snow, right? And all of a sudden I saw these workers from their hotel go outside, and they were so excited. And I'm sitting there going, what are they excited about? And I asked my waitress, and she said, well, they're from the Philippines. This is the first time they've seen snow.
That's awesome. That's
Doesn't
awesome.
snow in the Philippines.
Yep. Definitely give them that chance.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of great stuff going on up here in New Hampshire, and it's been, of course, different since the pandemic started and all that. And that's actually one of the other things that's been going on is Code Camp went entirely virtual, so we didn't cancel it in 2020. We actually used Microsoft Teams to host it, and it actually felt as much like we could. We really shot to get Code Camp to be an interactive event like it would be in person. Our presentations were done as meetings so that people could interact with the presenters, and we had places for people to chat outside of presentations and that sort of thing. So lot of fun stuff that we did to try to make it feel like an in-person event, even though we were all socially distanced and separate and home. And for the first time ever, of course, under those circumstances, it was a global event. So Granite State Code Camp goes global, but Boston didn't even attempt it. And so I am a little bit proud of the fact that we managed to pull something together with a great capture the flag feature, and lots of opportunity to meet and greet people and stuff like that, like you really should get at a great conference. And sort of part of what made that work actually was we started doing this feature. Well, not really a feature. It's literally an every night thing. We do this meetup every single weeknight at 9 p.m. Eastern, called Granite State Code Review Nightly. And the whole idea is just, come in. If you're a coder, you come in, talk shop. If you got a problem, we can look at it with you, maybe make a few suggestions, pointers, help you find documentation. And the fun part, it doesn't always stick to code. Sometimes it drifts off to other topics and stuff like that, which is cool. It was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and here we are a year and a half later. We're still doing them, and it's been amazing. There's been some people that have been with it since the beginning. Other people have kind of cycled in and out. And if you're interested, that's on that meetup.com link that I shared at the beginning here. But feel free to pop in and say hello. But we also use that to organize some of the other things. So if you, for example, wanted to give a hand, or anybody wanted to give a hand to helping organize Granite State Code Camp, or some of the other events that we kind of have a hand in, you can pop in and contribute some, or just check out what we're doing with it. Find out where we're at and who's involved and stuff like that. It's kind of an open office hours, type meeting that you can pop in, and we might be talking about, somebody's coding issues, or we might be talking about, how we're going to get people from Eventbrite authenticated in Azure Active Directory or something like that. So,
well, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm usually watching Netflix at that time, but
Yeah, no, I understand. We picked that particular time, 9 p.m. Eastern is for a lot of us out here on the East Coast, that's kind of late,
Yeah, it is.
But we wanted it to be out of the way, after everybody else is done
the
with
kids
everything.
go to bed.
Exactly. And it's just kind of worked. It's like I say, I didn't expect it to still be going, even if social distancing had fizzled out in 2 weeks. I didn't necessarily expect it to last that long, but like I say, here we are, still going and gearing up for the 2021 organization and that sort of thing. So we're figuring out, all right, are we going to be completely online again, or when can we get a commitment from a facility to have it in person if there's going to be an in-person component? And
Right.
so far we haven't been able to get a commitment for that, but we'll see. So
my hope is that they'll go to hybrid, right? And not shut out anybody that wants to attend, if they want to do it virtually from a different country, right? And maybe charge them too, of course, because there's always cost involved in, putting that out on the internet, and, StreamYard isn't free, so someone's got to pay for it. And so, I hope we go to a hybrid, because, that's one thing that I've unfortunately got used to is, one of my favorite parts of going to conferences or user groups and, code camps is the interaction I get with people, right? Especially working at home. I don't get a lot of physical, one-on-one interaction with people. And so that was a real good way for me to keep my ear to the ground on what people are caring about and have issues with and stuff like that. And we just don't get that speaking virtually, right? Usually when you're doing a presentation, you're talking to yourself, right? And that's so boring.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to listen to myself, right?
Yeah. I totally get you. That's I call myself an introvert, but I sometimes wonder if I'm an ambivert, because when it comes to talking about tech, it's like I do enjoy bouncing ideas off people and getting feedback and hearing what they've got, what are their pain points and what do they got going on, so definitely appreciate that opportunity to help people out with it and all that. So and that's kind of a cool little segue into the build type stuff too.
I was going to try to get us into the build stuff you want to talk about.
yeah.
So go for it.
All right.
What did you find exciting with build?
So there's tons of great stuff that they're talking about with Azure, of course, and so it's been an interesting ride with build. They tried to make it a little bit more interactive by having some or a good number of the sessions being interactive. So they were more like meetings for the most part than they were just a broadcast. They did pre-record a bunch of stuff, and plenty of that content was out there, and that was okay, but the thing that you got to go to your boss for to get approval to take time off to participate in is is the interactivity. It's like if you go to your boss and say, hey, I want to take some time off to watch some pre-recorded videos, they'll be like, well, you don't have to take time off for pre-recorded videos. So and I totally get that, and that's the pain point for a lot of these types of events. So at build itself, there was some interesting stuff with like Project Reunion and the Snapdragon developer kit and all that stuff. But of course, the big news for the most part was all about Azure, and that left a lot of the Windows developers kind of saying, well, all right,
yeah, I know.
We got that one announcement that said, stand by, we've got another conference coming to talk about that. And it's like, as a developer who likes to get my hands dirty on a little bit of everything, I do full stack development, and every chance I get, I want to work on, like desktop applications, but seems like those chances get smaller and thinner all the time, and so I'm a little bit more in the ASP.NET Blazor. Okay, so it's not that anymore, it's more React and Angular. And I'm like, all right, so it's I found myself going through like some interesting little bits and pieces with the Build 2021 book of news. And so if you haven't had a chance for people watching and stuff like that, check out the go do a search for Build 2021 book of news. You'll find the 40 some odd page document of all of the announcements that they made at Build. And while there were plenty of pieces in there that touched on C#, like Project Reunion and WinUI and like the WebView 2 stuff that they're talking about, if you do like a just a raw text search through the document for C#,
yeah, not a lot. Yeah,
no, not a lot. Actually, there's no hits. No
really?
hits for C#. Yeah. So it's like, all right, this is Microsoft's premier developer event. I'm really looking forward to this being back in person too. But it's not a secret as far as that goes that it feels like they're diluting a little bit of the value of it to things like .NET Conf and this Windows conference that's coming up, and
they have an Office one, and
yep. And so it's like, I mean, Microsoft on some level is getting more developer oriented across the board, but that means that Build is getting or feeling a little bit thinner under the circumstances. And like I say, that's not any hidden secret or anything like that. The book of news feels a little bit thinner than it used to. There's a lot more pictures in it, which is nice.
Well, we got two comments. Well, some from the same person, and the same person said that they can't find a show like this one on the internet. Thank you. That's what I strive for. But she also said that Build failed this time. Nothing for developers to take away. Looks like it. So yeah, I'm not defending Microsoft by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to remember that whenever you go to a conference, especially done by Microsoft, it's a marketing opportunity, right? It's you're not going to find a lot of in-depth technical stuff at these kind of conferences, right? It's more just marketing. It's more just to kind of put that idea in your head, and then you have to go off and find it, right? And but this even applies if you go to like a big conference like VS Live or something like that. If you're talking if a Microsoft person talking to you, they're talking to you about marketing. Right?
Yeah.
Their goal is to market whatever they're talking about, not to really teach you how to do it, right?
Yep.
And so you kind of have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. Now that I don't know if you feel this way, but ever since I became an MVP and I get to go to the MVP summit, I don't feel a need to go to any of these conferences anymore because I find out about it before most other people do too. And at least when we go to the MVP summit, usually they're not so marketing heavy, and that's why I like the MVP summit. But the only way to get to go to one for all of you out there is to be a Microsoft MVP. That's the only way you get to go. You can't buy tickets to this thing, and that's why it's my favorite conference. Well, it used to be. It's to me, the last two times I went, it just became a preview for Build, and it wasn't as much use to me anymore. But I hope they change that. I hope they, developer conferences for developers, not their managers, right? But the managers hold the money, right? Yeah. And so you gotta appease everybody, I guess. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
I totally hear you as far as MVP Summit goes too, and that's one of my own little personal pain points. Is I was awarded my MVP in April of 2019. Which was just after the last in-person MVP summit.
Oh, yeah.
So
you haven't gone to you've never gone to one.
I can't wait, and I was chomping at the bit, and I was watching this pandemic coming and seeing the staring at the train coming at the headlight coming at me in the tunnel for this because I really wanted to attend MVP Summit, and it just fell all apart there, and you know how that went. But I really can't wait to get back to it.
Even with that said, I became an MVP in 2006, and back then the summits were a lot better than they are now. I think I tweeted last week because I'm looking for a new job now. I said I'll be the new head of the MVP program if you want, because I want to kick it back in its butt and go back to the way it was 10 plus years ago, because that's really where I felt as an MVP that not only was I getting this insider information, which we really don't get much anymore, but I had real impact on the product. There's ideas in Visual Studio that are my ideas, right? Me, little old me, right? And so I think that was a powerful thing that I think they just don't use us for much anymore. And I hope they go back to it. I hope Microsoft goes up and down with their community involvement, right? Mm-hmm. And I hope they go back up to another peak, because it seems like they've been letting it wane for a while. And I hope they get back, forcefully back into, doing more community events, especially the MVP, the MVP program and things like that. So that's my 2 cents,
Yes.
But yeah. And
I totally get what you're saying, and I have been watching the MVP program for decades. I remember being aware of it back in the early 2000s when you probably first got yours, it's been an interesting thing to watch. I remember being totally blown away the first time I met an MVP myself in person. It was. I still won't forget it was Chris Bortlick, of all people. I don't know if you know him or not, but
I know of him, yeah.
He was the first MVP that I met in person, and it's just the kind of thing that I remember, very vividly, and then running into other people like Bob Familiar and those folks that are so big in the MVP community out here on the East Coast, and being like, wow, these people are amazing. I can't believe I get to be at a conference with them. So, but I definitely get what you're saying about MVP Summit too, and I really do look forward. They really had some great announcements at Build for Azure, and the Graph community, and IoT Edge, and Azure Arc. Actually, I think that's one of my most probably my favorite, most exciting announcement for Build from me. Really kind of felt like the cross-platform web app services, the cross cloud. So you can build your Azure web app solution for AWS or Google Cloud or whatever, and have that operate through Azure Arc, and manage your cross-platform cloud through Azure Arc and all of that stuff. It makes it a whole lot nicer. But like I say, at heart, I've always kind of been a C# desktop. I grew up in the WinForms world. And got big into XAML and Xamarin, Xamarin to some extent. But UWP was a big thing for me. The .NET users group that I run actually grew up out of Windows Phone, which is where UWP sprung up out of.
Right.
So we're really definitely looking forward to the Windows conference coming up. That they're actually the biggest tease that I've gotten out of this is the fact that they're saying this is the most exciting news about Windows 10 since Windows 95. Not Windows 10. Windows. just
No.
all up Windows. The most
Yeah.
exciting news about Windows since Windows 95. And Windows 95 was, if you were around for that, Windows
Oh, yeah.
95 was very exciting.
Yes.
So
Windows Me, on the other hand, was a big miss, right? But Windows 95 was, a brand new kind of thing. Yeah.
95 was awesome. 98 was cool. ME was terrible. Vista was terrible.
Yeah.
But so there were issues along the way. Of course, Windows 8 was definitely a miss, but Windows 10 is definitely back on track. And so, I know that there's some really exciting stuff, and they haven't even told us MVPs a whole bunch about it. Maybe the Windows Dev MVPs know a little bit more, but I'm really interested in seeing what that is, because they really changed up the whole developer dynamic when they moved Windows from, as a business unit, from its own first level entity within Microsoft. They moved it under Azure, which kind of makes sense. It's really their Azure client, if you kind of think about it that way. So it fits there both architecturally speaking and also business speaking at that level. But as the developer in me that wants to do mobile development and desktop development and web development and all of these things, and especially C#, because I love C#, and I really prefer any opportunity that I can where I have whatever else and C# wins.
Right.
So, and Windows is always a first world service for first world platform for C#, of course, where it doesn't necessarily always feel quite like that in Azure. There's so many other options, and the browser tends to be the client, and so you get to write your Azure functions in C#, but
and Azure changes so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with it, tell you the truth, and even if you don't go to the portal for a couple months for some reason, which I typically do, depending what I'm working on, I go to it and I go, I don't know how to do anything anymore. What the heck did they do from 2 months ago? Or they rename things, right? And go, gosh, dang it, can you stop? Just pick a name and stick with it.
There's an awful lot of code thrashing, and and I kind of get that too. I've been joking for a while now that a big reason why there was so much thrashing over the Windows 8, Windows 10 era with Windows RT and stuff like that. I half jokingly say that Microsoft was kind of thrashing the platform back then, because they were tired of being a monopoly.
And they wanted to compete better with Apple. I mean, that's why a lot of that came around. Vista and all that was because they were trying to compete with Apple with their tablet devices, right? So they needed something less heavy to sit on a tablet, right? And than Windows itself, right? And so that was the big push. It was a good try, but as a lot of things Microsoft, they don't work out, and typically Microsoft, well, they either abandoned it or then try to make it better, one or the other, right? And too many things have been abandoned that kind of upset me, and but things usually come back. The really good stuff usually comes back as something else. They reimagine it. I don't know what they call it up there, but
that was the big news at Build. I want to say 2018 was that Microsoft is no longer a monopoly. And it's kind of funny, because it's like I talk about one of my favorite, most exciting technologies at this year's Build being Azure Web Services being cross cloud. that year, my favorite thing was the fact that Microsoft is no longer a monopoly, and they're not being monitored as a monopoly anymore, which means that they are free to innovate again.
Right.
And they've definitely been taking advantage of that, and that is definitely appreciated. And so that's where we're starting to see some healing from all that with Project Reunion and WinUI and all of that stuff, Maui to some extent. Though I would have loved to have heard more about Uno platform. They talked a lot about Project Reunion and Maui, but I don't think I heard Uno platform come up practically at all. So I'm
Yeah.
like, come
I
on,
need to go back and watch some of those videos. We were talking about some of what you liked and maybe didn't like at the beginning of this part. And one thing, and this is me, this is my thing, I know, and I know the younger developers are probably not going to agree with this, but at Build, at least the segments they had in between the sessions were a little too goofy for me, and it was like too much like I'm watching CNN or something. And, I don't go to Build to watch CNN, right? Or people to be goofy and stuff like that. I know there's a point. I mean, I laugh and tell jokes on my show, but, I think there's a time and a place for that. And, doing 10 minutes of that just kind of turned me off, and I go, screw it. I'll come back and watch the recording later. I don't need to sit around for this,
Yep.
And yeah. So that's and I think again, this is me, but this is why I can't watch Twitch, right? Twitch is too distracting for me to pay attention to what the guy's trying to talk about,
Yeah.
And I've tried over and over again to watch, Jeff Fritz and, Mark Miller and stuff. I last like 5 minutes and I have to get out, I know what they're saying is awesome stuff, but I just don't like Twitch. I know my show is on Twitch, but at least you can't drop bombs and do goofy graphics just because you're there, right? And that kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
But that's me. Again, that's me. I'm there for technical content. And especially online. I want to get to the point, and so I can get back to whatever else I was doing. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It was a Tonight Show with Scott Hanselman. That's perfect. Yes. That one, I remember that first one with Scott and the guy with the cowboy hat, and then the woman. Yeah, that's exactly what I felt like. I'm on the Tonight Show or something, and trying to have geeks act like that is usually not great, right? We're not good at doing things like that. I know Scott's better at it than some of us, but you know what I'm saying? It's, yeah, there's, I think it was mixing it a little too much, right? It's supposed to be professional, right? And that's what it used to be called, the Professional Developers Conference, right? Way back when, right?
Yep.
Back in the mid 2000s. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I miss that actually. It's funny because if I tell people, hey, I'm all excited because I get to go to Microsoft Build, and they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
And what are they, build what? Okay. But if you said like PDC and said, what's that? Well, it's Professional Developers Conference. Nobody questions, what that is. It's, very clear. They're software developers, and, everybody knows, hey, it's professional and it's a conference.
I went to the very first Build. And only because it's just right up the highway in Anaheim from me. So it's only like, a little over an hour away or so. It was right near Disneyland. So that's about an hour away if I don't have traffic. And
nice.
So I went to the very first one, but when I saw Bill, when I saw Bomber, going up and down the stage like he's a car salesman, I'm going, okay, this is completely worthless.
Was that the developers? Yeah, that's a very well-known scene.
I was sitting way up at the top of the auditorium of that one, and I was watching, going, oh my gosh, stop it, because I've been at conferences where I'm pretty close to Bill Gates, and it was a completely different experience, right? and then Bill Ballmer being, you know, a car salesman, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Infomercial. He reminded me of the infomercial, you know, that works on QVC or some crap like that. You know,
Steve came up out of sales, if I remember right. Is that
I don't know, but that makes sense. Yeah.
I think he did, and it doesn't totally, you know, surprise me. I don't remember a whole bunch about his background, but I definitely remember that scene, and you know, I think it has stuck with an awful lot of people. It's kind of a meme of its own. So.
It is. Developers.
Yeah,
I know.
Yep.
But hey, you know, it's all companies have their bad leaders, like some countries do. But you know, it's the way things go, I guess. But yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, sorry everybody, we're just talking about conferences. But anybody have any questions before I let Jim go? Make sure you ask him really quick. I always forget to do that. Steve Ballmer endorses AWS after moving from Microsoft. That kind of reminds me of the politicians in America who blocked, you know, the legalization of marijuana, and now guess what they do? They own those companies now, right? And it's so how did you get from blocking it? It's evil, and now you're making money off of it. Really?
Yeah, there's sort of an evil genius there, I think, but
money rules everything, right? It's interesting how quickly people get corrupted if they get a little bit of extra money, you know.
Yeah, it is interesting to note that, you know, even with AWS, a good chunk of AWS's revenue stream comes from licensing Microsoft software. So, you know, it's like, you know, it's kind of funny that, you know, all that worked out the way it did. But
yeah, I had a job interview this week. It was a really interesting company, and you know, they actually and I was applying to be like a cloud architect, and they specialize in all three major platforms, and so I thought that was interesting. You know, usually, well, they're a consulting company, so I guess they have to do that. Most companies stick with one thing or the other, which I think is a mistake. You know, I you know, ever since I was a beginner way back in the 90s, you know, I learned that you use the right tool for the job, right? And so, you know, my whole feeling with that is if you pigeonhole people into one thing, yeah, you're probably going to lose those people, and you might not have the as great as outcome as you could have, right? And I mean this with languages too. It's the exact same thing, right? And you know, if you have a company and we only do C#, you're doing it wrong, right? Yeah. Or we only do Java, right? You're doing it wrong, right? You know, you use it right tool for the job always, right? And if you don't have developers smart enough to do that, then get new ones.
Yeah.
You know, I know there's a huge shortage of developers in America, at least right now. And I always say there's a huger shortage of good developers, right? But that just tells you that you don't need, especially nowadays, you don't need to stick in a job, at least in America. I can't talk for other countries like India, but at least in America, you don't need to stick in a job you aren't really happy with, right? There's another one right down the street these days, right? And I'm not saying it was as easy as the internet bubble days. That was the best time to find a job. I didn't even interview. I just negotiated salary and that was it, right? That was the extent of the interview. And but those days are
flipped over.
Those days are gone, unfortunately. Because I was thinking about it this week because I'm looking for a job. And I was going, oh man, I wish it was the internet bubble days again. I wouldn't have to go through this interviewing. And the interviewing is, for me, has just gotten worse. Over the years, much worse. And the recruiters, oh my God.
All the attempts. All the attempts to try to make interviewing better have really just kind of steered it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. And I remember the days when all you had to do to be a programmer was just spell C, and you'd get the job,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then it went completely the other way when the bubble burst.
Right. Right.
You had to get a full a full examination to even be considered for a while there. So
Yeah. Even though the college degree thing, it's finally not being so strict. I mean, it really depends on the company you're interviewing for, but even there, they used like in the internet bubble days, that was not a big deal, and then became a big deal, and now it's kind of going away again. Not going away, but tamping down on you have to have a college degree to be a computer software engineer. I know very few computer software engineers that have a computer software engineering degree, right?
Yep.
They have a degree in other things, which is fine, but I don't know very many that actually have one.
That's definitely a pendulum that swings. So I've seen that myself. So
it's really what not a piece of paper in the end, right? But there are some companies, like Hewlett Packard, even Microsoft, that bar people if you don't have a degree, and flat out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's,
which is funny because, as I recall, Bill Gates didn't actually get his degree. So.
No. did even Steve Jobs get his?
I honestly don't know about Steve Jobs.
I don't think Zuckerberg did either, right?
Yeah.
So he dropped out. Yeah. So these big people you guys follow don't even have a computer science degree.
Yep. Yeah. And geez, they had such a terrible career,
Well, I guess he didn't have someone chimed up, he didn't have a degree. It's really the person and to me, it's the person, the intellect level and all that kind of stuff. And really, and playing a cookie cutter to everybody just doesn't work, especially for software engineers, right? We all like to be individualists, we all, have our own mindset, most of us, right? And you just can't apply cookie cutters. That's why my latest poll, which I'll share next week, is I did a poll because of something I saw a couple of weeks ago when I was looking at job postings on a very well-known company in America, that every one of their software engineer postings was 3 years, senior software engineer, 3 years. I'm going, really? So every one of your senior software engineer position only needs 3 years, right? Come on. That's a cookie cutter, right? And it totally turned me off from applying because I'm going, okay, something's going on here and it doesn't sound right to me. So I'm just going to back away.
Well, that's right. I remember seeing a post from Scott Hanselman. He was like, hey, I just published my new JavaScript framework. Come check it out on GitHub. And by the way, my company is hiring. We need people with 3 years experience in it.
Yeah.
It's like you just published it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was totally busting on it, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I was speaking at the Silicon Valley Code Camp one year, and I was in the big theater because a lot of people came to my my career my technical interview talk. And there's somebody that worked for Microsoft then that was sitting in the front row. I know her. She's the funniest person I've ever known that worked at Microsoft. And she's sitting in front row, and I got speaking about, people want, I started talking about the God programmer that you see listed on resumes, the one person that knows everything there is, right? Which doesn't exist, right? And she brought up, because, it was not long after like Swift came out. She goes, yeah, I'm seeing job postings, of more experience for Swift that it's even existed.
Yep. Oh, classic.
It's pretty funny, but I can't believe we ran out of time already. Dang.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Geez.
That's okay. Well, I thought we were like half through. I guess we started talking too much about conferences, but that's the way it is sometimes here on Rockin The Code World. And I hope you liked it. I know one person really liked the show. That's for sure. But I'm really glad we've had an opportunity to catch up, and whenever you need a speaker, you can reach out to me anytime you want. And
fantastic. Thank you.
And so, 2 questions I ask all my guests. First one is, what do you do for fun besides coding?
Actually, lately, I aside from organizing conferences and stuff like that, is this a good time to bring up the book thing? Or
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I actually am like imminently getting a book into the bookstore, and I opted not to go on a specific technology direction, because I've seen a couple of cases where somebody wrote and spent a year working on this big technical book, and they finally get it out into the bookstores, and immediately the framework gets changed out from under it, and it's completely obsolete, and you can't even get people to pay to have it put on the paper anymore. So so I went with something that's a little bit more science fiction, cuts into faith, talks about technology a lot, and kind of brings those things together in a way that's a little bit unique. And I apologize, I got a dog that's very upset here, so
it's okay.
We must have somebody.
No one paid for that, so it's all right.
Yeah, hold on. But yeah, that's actually probably going to be in bookstores probably July-ish at this point. But if you dig around my profile, you'll probably find a link to the website, and there might even be a copy you could read a little bit in advance. So
cool.
So that's available if you're interested. I love chatting about stuff like that too, but that's a whole separate topic. So
your book is actually going into actual bookstores, right? Physical bookstores. Yeah. But I'll tell you a little fun thing I used to do when I first saw my first book get into physical bookstores, and because back then we didn't really have ebooks, right? You had books, period, right? And so whenever I would go to a bookstore in my area, right, all the bookstores here were carrying my book, right? But when you go to a bookstore and you see some books that are this way, and you see some books that are that way, right, where you can see the face, and others you just see the spine. Well, the ones you see their face, they pay for that, right? They pay for that real estate to see the face, so it sells more, right? So yeah. So since my publisher didn't do that, when I would go to the bookstores, guess what I would do?
Well, hey, you pay for it one way or another, either in cash or in time. But
yeah. I turned my books around so you could see the face.
Yep, that's awesome.
I thought, but I still remember the first time I saw it. I was in a bookstore down south of me a little bit. I was with one of my coworkers, and I saw mine for the first time, and I was like jumping up and down in the store going, "Oh my God, I have a book in an actual bookstore."
That is cool. I'm kind of looking forward to that experience.
Yeah. But now we have video. Somebody could take a video of you doing that. Back then we didn't have cell phones with video and stuff, right? So
yeah, I'm not sure I'd want there to be evidence, but
that's so true. Well, we got to wrap it up because I'm going to go over. So I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you have a good summer, and I hope everything goes great for all these conferences that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to getting back in person someday. I don't know when that's going to be at this point, but I'm crossing my fingers. So any conferences want to invite me, invite me. I have nothing on my schedule except for the conference I'm hosting in 2 weeks. So anyway, so thanks a lot.
Well,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say likewise, and thank you for having me, and good luck with your job search, and definitely appreciate what you're doing with India too. So,
thank you. I try. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Come. Also feel free to come back anytime you want on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Wow, that time went by really quick. Whew. I can't believe it was an hour already. So we're going to go a little bit over because I haven't done my new code rules yet. But I'll try to make it short now that we've kind of run out of time because I want Simon to go to bed. So before I go, everybody wins a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. You go to that link right there, and you get your special dotNetDave copy, which is a real copy of CodeRush. CodeRush is a code refactoring tool that I've used ever since it came out for Visual Studio back in the early days. And it helps me to be such a more productive developer. You need to get a code refactoring tool. So here's one you do for free. And I even have my teammates at work get one because companies don't like to pay for it. And even the person who's helping me out with Spargene now got a copy, so he can help me with Spargene the correct way with refactoring and everything. So anyway, go check out DevExpress. All their products are great. So I found some geek humor I was going over, and I thought this was pretty funny. Can we make it a little bigger? Yeah. So I know most of you should know that I love working from home because I'm more productive when I work at home. And I found this graphic really funny with, if you work at home, 100% of your day is working, well, pretty close. And then when you work in an office, the smallest part of your day is working. And that's actually true. And I'm going to talk about that in the new code rules just coming up with the next slide. So anyway, I'll try to bring these humor stuff as I find them. So let's talk about new code rules. The new code rules this week is something that I've experienced for well over a decade now. And this really happened a lot at the company that I just left last week. And since I know I can give you examples from over 10 years ago when I first really started to see this happening, I'm not sure why we're still having this problem and why it's worse maybe even. And that is, how does management expect productivity when engineers are in meetings most of the day? I don't understand, At my last job, it was so hard to get others to help me out in my own team because they were stuck in meetings all day. When I ask somebody for help, they go, well, I can help you next week because I'm stuck in meetings. I'm going, well, wait a minute. I need help now. I don't need next week. And maybe that's why, projects at this company took, probably 4 or 5 times longer than they really should have taken. And one of the reasons was because, many of the developers were stuck in meetings most of the day. Now, luckily, I wasn't stuck in a lot of these because they know that won't go well for me. So they only invited me to the meetings that I had the most value of learning something from. But I just see this all the time. And every developer I've talked to this about complains about this. So why isn't this getting better? For an example, at my last job, at least this is the way it worked the last year I was on this contract, is I had a minimum unproductive meetings a week of 6 hours. Yes, 6 hours of unproductive meetings every week, where it was basically almost useless for the projects I was working on. If you add in the context switching, and I know context switching varies on how old you are, but now you're talking at least 8.5 hours a week of just wasted. So before I start the week, I'm already a day behind, right? And it's not going to get better from there, right? And I'm totally serious. These are just the normal meetings I had all week. If other meetings got assigned to me, then this course's number would go up a lot, right? But this is just the normal Scrum meetings, team meetings we had each week, and our one-on-one meetings with our boss. And with 6 hours of meetings, my former boss still didn't know what we were doing. So, more meetings isn't the answer, right? If you don't know what people are doing, more meetings isn't the answer. And because I was thinking about this morning is, meetings, don't create features. No salesman goes out to companies and go, well, our product's better because, our people have 15 hours of meetings a week. this doesn't work like this. This meetings is not a selling point for your product, right? The product is kind of like unit tests. They're a necessary evil to make good quality products, right? So at this company, I kind of started talking about, we would have these long, drawn out 2-hour meetings, which I called merry-go-round meetings, because we would sit in a meeting for 2 hours and go round and round and round, and we'd leave the meeting, nothing happened, right? So we just completely wasted 2 hours of everybody's time. And if you have 10 people in a meeting, at my salary or even higher when you have managers, right? That's a lot of money wasted for 2 hours, a lot of money. And you're not getting work done. You're just sitting there, waiting to get the heck out of the meeting, right? And one meeting I was in with an architect once at the same job, where I was in this meeting, and every question I was asking the manager, not my manager, but another manager, the data manager, every single question I asked her comment was, well, the right person's not in the room. The right person's not in the room. The right person's not in the room. And I finally stood up and said, okay, I'm leaving. Let me know when the right people are in the room. And I left. And the architect followed me. And we go outside, and the architect said, so Dave, what do you think about that meeting? And I said, well, if I had a gun right now, I'd shoot myself, because I can't believe I was invited to that meeting of just nothing happening. Another merry-go-round meeting at this place. So I could complain about this all day, and one of my good friends, Woody Zoll, who will be speaking at the Code Quality Conference in 2 weeks, he said something very similar to this to me one time. And if engineers are regularly working 8 hours a day, there is a problem, right? And when my teammates are so stressed out that quality suffers because they're being forced to work overtime because they're stuck in meetings all day to get their work done, there is a problem, right? You have to look at it. At the same company I'm complaining a lot about, at one point when I was working there, they realized they were doing too many meetings. So they came up with this not very brilliant idea, and they said, let's have no meeting Wednesdays, right? And so with every Wednesday, nobody can schedule meetings, right? That lasted like 2 weeks, and the whole company slid back to the old merry-go-round meetings, and so nothing happened. But I've got tons of these stories, but we're out of time. So if you're going to call a meeting, and I don't remember the last time a meeting was actually organized like this, make sure all stakeholders are in the meeting, right? All of them. Because if you can't get decisions made in the meeting, why are you having a meeting, right? Make a plan. This is something I haven't seen in many, many years. Make a plan for the meeting, an outline of what's going to be discussed, and put it in the calendar event and stick to that plan, right? If you don't get through everything, then do another meeting, but don't extend that one, and don't try to cram too much into one, because that's not going to help either, right? Every meeting should have meeting notes. There should be meeting notes and action items out of every single meeting. Using SharePoint or something similar makes this super, super easy, right? But again, I don't remember the last time someone actually did this, right? So those are my 4 things I besides decreasing the number of meetings you're having, to increase your productivity, make sure you have good structured meetings, just like you need to have good structured quality code. Meetings need to be the same way. All right. Thanks for watching. I've got a great, Sean's going to be here next week. He's the speaker, teacher, and filmmaker. So I'm really excited to talk with Sean. I'm not sure if we've ever spoken in person, but I've known Sean for a long time. I think, is he a Microsoft MVP? He might be. Anyway, please be safe and listen to your medical professionals about COVID-19 pandemic. I know Americans are getting too relaxed and having to be bribed, while my friends in India are dying, and would give would do anything to get a vaccine shot right now, which they can't get. So please submit money, like the link I had at the beginning of the show, to donate money to the COVID relief in India. If you can't do that, or you should do this anyway, please go to your local blood bank and donate blood. It's an easy thing. It's free, doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time, and it makes you feel really good about it. And if you're afraid of needles, they hardly hurt anymore. You know, the needles they use for donating blood now are so much better than when I started back in the 80s. So please donate blood. And speaking of donating blood, I will be donating blood tomorrow at my local blood bank. So I hope you'll join me. And all of the blood banks around the world are in shortage because of COVID, and they really need your help. So go give some blood. And thanks. That's the show. Make sure you email me at rockincodeworld@csharpcorner.com with suggestions, speakers you want me to have on the show, questions about the conference I'm hosting in 2 weeks. And I hope you'll attend the Code Quality Conference on June 18th. I'll see you next week.